I lost my most prized possession.
Play the theme music. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alan, and I'm here with the ever-steaming Adam.
I'm suitably steamed, mate. I'm as soft as a baby's bum.
Ooh, like a little Chinese dumpling steamed to within an inch of your life.
You know what's so funny about that is that after saying it, I immediately thought, oh, why didn't I say like a Chinese dumpling? And you said it. I'm so glad you said that. Exactly like that, mate. Soft and supple.
That's it. We're best friends. We're in sync. We think of the same things. We've got synesthesia across our minds, thinking things, smelling things, saying things. That's Tripology.
Mate, I'm having such a good time. I am having a good time. I'm missing you dearly, though. There's been so many things over the last few weeks where I've thought, fuck, I wish Alan was here.
Miss you too, my friend. As you can see, still here in my little dorm room in Brazil, still gallivanting around, having ever such a nice time. But wouldn't it be that much greater if you, Adam, my best mate, my tripological boy of epic proportions, were by my side?
All steamed and supple.
Yeah,
of course it would, mate. And I think that's probably what we're up against now, is that, you know, on my side, I'm constantly talking about you and telling people about the pod. On your side, you're constantly talking about you and telling people about the pod.
He's the egotistical, narcissistical, tripological man.
But no, mate, there's some things that I don't mind doing on my own. Of course, we're both solo travelers at heart. We are, you know, fundamentally solo travelers and backpackers. I think we're very comfortable in our own company. However, there have been a lot of times over the last few weeks where I've just thought it would be so wonderful to experience this with you, because I think I'm doing a lot of stuff that I had imagined doing with you as well, which I guess compounds the issue a little bit.
Congratulations. Do you want to talk about them?
well, maybe you have to leave that for the Patreon. But no, mate, you know, I've said this before, and I know you've said it as well. We're partial to a city, aren't we?
We love a good city, from Tokyo to Seoul. All the cities I've not been to but would like to one day. We love a city.
I am, of course, talking about the cities of Europe, of which many. Well, you've been to many of them, haven't you? And I haven't, and I feel almost embarrassed. Now I can say that I've been to many of them, but I was a little bit embarrassed when people are going, "Oh, you've been to Prague? No. Oh, you've been to Vienna? No. Oh, you've been to, you know, Budapest? No. Oh, you've been to Skopje? No one's asking me if I've been to Skopje, but I have."
It's a nightmare, isn't it? When there's like this profound ability that some people get, usually attractive women who you're trying to impress, where you go like, yeah, I've been traveling for quite a long time, baby. You know, I've been on the road. And then they proceed to go, oh, have you been to? And then perfectly, with pinpoint accuracy, sink the battleships at every place you've not been to in the last 10 years. For me, it's always like Japan. It's always like East Asian countries. And then I don't know what to do with that, because at that point I'm like, right, should I get my passport out? Do you want to see the stamps?
I kind of feel the same way, and we actually touched on this a couple of episodes ago, didn't we, about the competitive nature of travelling?
Yeah.
And I've spoken to a lot of people recently that sort of wear how many countries they've been to as a badge of honour, and I would really quite like to talk about that very briefly, because I don't think it's a healthy thing to do. I think it's actually quite toxic, and it maybe misses the point of what it is that we love about travel, and also the sort of travel that we try and encourage.
Yeah, I nearly came unstuck last week, didn't I, by trying to add 2 more countries, the Guays, Para and Eura, to my little list of countries been to. And I think that would have been a real mistake, because there was so much at that point that I'd not seen in Brazil. So I'd have had this weird little green, yellow, blue flag of Brazil in my travel basket, but no one would have known that really I hadn't seen much of Brazil at all.
Yeah, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there, is that the trip I'm doing through Europe, which is essentially interrailing, I've gone from London to Brussels to Luxembourg, down across to Trier, which, we'll have to do an episode on that because one of my good friends lives down there, Danny. I had a great time with him, and he sort of showed me around Trier, which is a city he's been living in for, I think, the last 7 years. But it's the oldest city in Germany, and there are some very, very old Roman ruins there. Hence why I've sort of been feeling it would have been nice if Alan had been here to enjoy this and explain everything, for Christ's sake. And yeah. And then, of course, I've been to Prague, and I've been to Bratislava, and I've been to Vienna, and I've been to Budapest. And I would really like to sort of share with you my experience of Budapest, because if ever there was a place in recent years that I've been to and thought, why the hell has it taken me so long to get here? It's Budapest.
I really want to hear about it. Before you tell me all about Budapest, I've actually been studying our Instagram, the algorithm. It's instagram.com/Atropology Podcast. I've been studying it very carefully, and I think I know how to create a viral clip right now just here on the podcast. Are you ready?
Yeah, okay, go on. I'm excited.
You've been interrailing. Aren't you a bit old for that?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple of conversations, Alan. I've had a couple of conversations with some little nippers, some 19-year-olds who have said, "Oh, you are travelling still? Like, you're not here for work?"
Yeah.
And I go, "No, I'm just sort of backpacking through Europe." And they're like, "Oh, right. No, it's not. I mean, it is sort of surprising that you would do that, but I'm inspired. I'm not. It's not embarrassing."
Nice turtleneck, Grandad.
Yeah, just for the listeners who are only listening to the audio, I am absolutely sweating my tits off because I've chosen to wear a turtleneck. I am in Skopje in Macedonia at the time of recording, and it is pretty cold outside. It's actually the coldest place I've been since Kosovo. A little name drop there.
Oh, crikey. Another place that I've never been to. Yeah, I'm also sweating because I've had to turn the fan off, and I'm in Brazil and it's very, very hot. So I've rolled my sleeves up to hear all about Budapest, mate. Let's go.
So, Budapest, you've been there. You were very kind in sending me some tips. You even forwarded some information from a dear friend of yours who I think has not only been there, but didn't they used to guide there?
They used to guide teams of young sort of travellers, usually that had been found at student unions and persuaded by a rep to go on a trip. And my friend would take them there and basically chaperone them as they would drink themselves into a Budapestian stupor.
Yeah, well, there was absolutely some drinking going on. I guess steaming taking on a second meaning there. But you will know this because you're a man of the world. I was reminded of this when I arrived in Budapest, that actually the west side of the river is Buda and the east side of the river is Pest.
I know, a little portmanteau, Buda and Pest, coming together to make something not quite as good as either. Budapest.
Now, what would you say Budapest is famous for? Because when it comes to, right, just let me talk you through this and you'll be able to see where I'm going. I'm not really one to go to every museum or every art gallery or every exhibition. I just don't think that a city is defined by its museums or its statues or its religious monuments, actually.
What?
Yeah, ever since we parted ways, my trip's getting a little bit less religious.
No!
But I do actually think that this city is somewhat defined by the thing that I'm going to talk about.
Goulash, turkey legs, the escape from communism, the music of Solaris. My dad will love that little reference. And I don't know, I suppose just sort of a brilliant Hungarian spirit. Oh, baths, of course. Steamy hot baths.
Yeah, you could have also mentioned Robert Capa.
Nope, because I don't want to mention Robert Capa, okay? And if I'd wanted to, I would have, because I know who he is.
There's me trying to sound like I know a thing or two, even though the other day I just went to the museum for the first time. I was like, oh, I don't know anything about this guy. But
who is he?
He's a sort of Hungarian-American photojournalist who was very famous for photographing the Spanish Civil War and then a lot of conflicts after that.
Okay. Well, my own personal brand of mental illness is that I'll spend all night researching him now. So thank you very much.
But no, you can go to the museum in Budapest, which I would highly recommend. I spent about 3 hours walking around the exhibition, seeing a lot of his work, and some of the photos are absolutely incredible. I probably will share them on the Instagram at some point.
Make sure you get Robert's permission before you do.
He died, actually, I think in 67. Was it 67 or 57? He stepped on a landmine in Vietnam.
All right, well, don't worry about it then. Just use his shit on our Instagram, no problem.
Yeah, crikey. Anyway, you were right, mate. Of course, it's the public baths.
Okay.
We know on this show, don't we, that I'm partial to a public bath. I mean, I absolutely love getting my kit off. I love sitting in a steaming hot pool, just watching the world go by.
Yeah, you go around in a breakaway turtleneck, so just for speed, as soon as you get to the bath, you just rip it off and you're ready to go.
This is the last time I wear a turtleneck ever.
I think you look lovely in that turtleneck. Okay, so I know a little bit about baths. I know that there's one called Széchenyi, something like that, and it's like a real effervescent, beautiful bath time experience.
Yeah, I think if you ask a Hungarian person, I think if you ask them where that bath house is, using the word you've just said, I think you get pretty close. It is quite difficult to say. I think it's pronounced something like...
Go on, can you do a better job?
I don't think so. I asked so many people. If I had $1 for every person I asked, I mean, I'd be quite wealthy, but I think it's something like Széchenyi or something.
Széchenyi bath.
But it is important to mention this on the podcast because this is a really strange situation. I was thinking about boycotting those baths because they are €36 to get into, okay?
That's expensive. Yeah, you sent me a message, didn't you?
Yeah, I sent you a message and I said, mate, I know that you've told me that these are a good thing to do. However, they are prohibitively expensive. And you sent me a message back that I really couldn't have expected, which was, I think you should still go.
Yeah, exactly. I asked you if you'd been, and you went, no, I fucking haven't, because it's €36.
And you don't even get naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're the big ones. And I didn't realise that there were so many different bathhouses, but you got the big ones that we've just mentioned, which let me just quickly describe you. I mean, it's like a huge pavilion almost, isn't it, with a number of outdoor pools, and then they've got some indoor thermal pools as well. There are multiple steam rooms, multiple saunas. It is an absolutely ginormous complex where you can probably fit a couple of thousand people quite comfortably.
I actually think they do festivals and events there as well, where like a DJ will play sort of techno music while everyone else takes a bath.
Yeah, I love the sound of that. And I did go there and I thought it was fantastic. I'll tell one of the stories later on. And then you've got Rudas, which is the Turkish bathhouse. I mean, if you can only go to one, I would say that has to be in the conversation. Having said that, still quite expensive, coming in about €25, something along those lines, depending on the ticket you buy, because they've even got a rooftop pool where you can have an amazing view over the whole of Budapest. It's really, really quite something, but they are architecturally probably the most impressive because when you go down into the Turkish bath area, it feels like you're going back in time. There are sort of columns and this big dome-shaped roof with a stained glass window, and I was in there from 9 till 11 o'clock in the morning, which was men only. It really did feel like going back in time.
How far back in time do you think it feels like you were going? Do you think it feels like sort of a few hours or more like a few centuries?
Few hours.
Oh, it feels like 6 a.m. in here.
If we ever reach a stage in society where we say things like, oh, it feels like we're going back in time and we only mean a few hours, that'll be quite funny. No, I would say a good few hundred years at the least.
Wow, a few hundred years simply by the act of taking a bath.
Yeah.
Well, that's worth the money.
Oh, yeah, totally. And then we've got Gela as well, which is another famous one. Again, very expensive. Architecturally, incredibly impressive. On the inside, it is very quite sort of opulent and decorative, very grand. However, I found, don't shoot me, but I found it was lacking in soul and atmosphere.
Lacking in soul and atmosphere. That is a scathing review of Gela. If I know the people at Gela, they will not be happy about that, and they'll be on the emails. They'll go to tripologypodcast.com. They'll find the Hostel Common Room contact form, and we'll be hearing from them.
Yeah, and then you've got the other two baths, Lukács, which is probably my favourite, just because it's super cheap. It's about 10-12 euros, and it feels like where the locals go, right? It's sort of on the Buda side, a bit further north, so it's a bit of a trek. If the city itself is slightly further south than those baths, but well worth a visit. Yes, it's outdated. Does it need renovation? Absolutely. Is it a fucking labyrinth that seems like it was designed backwards? Yes. But I think just that element of discovery, you walk through a door and there's like another 6 pools that you didn't even know existed. You think, bloody hell, it's absolutely amazing. So highly recommend that. And there's another one called Dander, which is lesser known, I guess, because it's so small. It's nowhere near as popular. And you're talking like €9 or €10 for those. So I did all 5. If you want to know more in-depth analysis and my sort of review of them and what you should do and what you shouldn't do, then send us an email, get on the Hostel Common Room contact form on the website, tripologypodcast.com. I would love to tell you about them in more detail.
And if you were to describe a way that once in the baths you could achieve a deepened sense of relaxation, what word might you use as a verb to describe that?
Meditation, perhaps?
Let's go on a brief one.
If you love the podcast as much as we love you, please could you take the time to rate the show on your favourite podcasting platform?
Yeah, go and give it 5 stars. Everyone else has. We're just waiting on you.
Thanks for supporting us. It means the world to us.
Like a man slowly sinking into a sulfuric bath in Budapest, allow your conscious mind to return into your brain. It's just we hear more, basically. Adam's in Budapest and we want to hear about it.
I can't tell you how much I loved the city, mate. I do say this about a lot of places, but Budapest is the latest one. And I do think I might live there one day. And
the number of times I hear that sentence out of your mouth, man.
I think, what was it that someone said to us once when we were in India? Was it that we are a reflection of the person we're speaking to? It was something along those lines, wasn't it?
Well, no. Well, what happened was a very, very spiritual man said to you, you complimented him. You said, I think you're a lovely guy. And he said to you, we are only a reflection of the people we are ourselves looking at us. Basically, to what he meant was that you are also lovely. So, yeah.
And I wonder if I just enjoy a lot of places because I'm in my element, as it were. And that is in no small part thanks to this one hostel and the lovely owner, and then a team of people that had me extending no less than 3 times. So I went there for 3 days to Budapest initially, and I ended up staying for about 8 or 9. And like I said in the previous episode, mate, it's one of the first times that I've really told myself to leave a place that I actually wanted to stay in.
Why did you... So it was almost the opposite tale of what I experienced in Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay. You wanted to stay, but chose to leave. Why?
I think because I had a number of cities sort of lined up, and I'd already been in Budapest for over a week. I think from a tourist perspective and what I like to get out of a location is just to maybe get a tiny little window into what it might be like if I did live there. Go to the local cafe, sit in a park for a couple of hours and people watch, go to all of the bathhouses. Once I'd done that, and I also had a plan to get on and sort of see some other cities, I thought you've probably done about as much. If you stay here any longer, I guess that there's even more chance that will just form the end of my trip. And then when I move to New Zealand, I'm just going to end up leaving from Budapest.
Yeah.
Which, would have been fine. But I was a little bit concerned that the novelty would have worn off. And I also don't have a plan to live there at the moment. So I was trying to sort of quit while I was ahead, as it were.
Sure.
But let me just give a quick shout out to this hostel. It's called The Bubble. And it's very central. The location's absolutely fantastic. It's actually more like a flat share. It's more like a converted apartment. And there was an amazing little crew of us. I mean, Olga, the owner, is from the city. She is such a wealth of knowledge and gave me some really good backpacking advice because she's clearly a very well-travelled person herself. She said one tiny little thing that actually changed my trip, became the running theme of my trip. She said, if you see an open door in Budapest, walk through it.
Wow.
And I love that because there's so many cute little gardens and courtyards. And she said, if anyone approaches you and says, what are you doing here? Just say you're an architecture student or something. But there were so many times throughout my trip there that I took her up on that. And for that reason, I ended up seeing some incredible graffiti, some really cute little courtyards, beautiful architecture. It's really, really a stunning city to look at. And there are loads of little nooks and crannies and cool little alleyways and stuff. So get exploring if you do go there. It really is quite something.
Now, with risk, I'm going to risk derailing the episode here a little bit. But last time I was in Budapest, and I love Budapest, it's one of my favourite European cities, I met someone who I've not been able to get out of my head ever since. And she was she was begging for change, but she was bent over at what can only be described as a right angle. She was the most 90-degree person I've ever seen in my whole life.
Right.
She had a cane, and she came up to me,
Yeah.
so, her head is at waist height, but luckily I was sat down drinking a coffee, so we were eye level. She was bent over, and she came up to me, and she simply looked at me and said, "Change."
Right. Yeah.
All right. At which point I said, "Oh, I don't have any change." I was kind of doing a bit of a cashless thing, card only.
Yeah.
So I said, "I don't have any change." And she made a noise, which to this day, I struggle to believe it wasn't some sort of curse. It was quite guttural. It was the kind of noise you can only make from having your torso at 90 degrees at the floor. And she kind of went like, "Oh," like this a little bit.
Right.
And then walked off. And I've not felt myself since.
I didn't stumble across this person.
You never met her? Because she, for me, was like one of the defining things about Budapest.
Have you been on Reddit forums where they've said they've also met this same person? And
Yes. I've found pictures of her online.
You are joking. Really?
Yes. But it's risky with stuff like this because at the risk of sounding like I'm making light of the homelessness situation or even the specific community of people begging in Budapest, I don't really want to put her online, a picture of her. But I've given you some keywords to search and you can maybe go about researching her for yourself. But she is a known figure in the Budapest community.
Fair enough. Yeah, can't say I came across this person that you met, but I've got no doubt that it would have shaken me up a little bit. It wasn't a sort of friendly interaction, obviously.
It just felt a lot like I'd been cursed.
That kind of ties into the story I'm about to tell, mate, because it does involve me losing something very dear to me.
Yep, that's her, all right. That's the kind of thing she does.
Incredible sentimental value. And I felt like my luck had changed the moment I lost it. And I know that that's probably psychological. And so is this interaction that you had with this lady is probably psychological.
Well.
But let's get back to the bathhouses. I was at the bathhouse that neither of us can pronounce with a good friend of mine, Ross. Ross, if you're listening, mate, you're a diamond, Scottish guy. And we kind of hit it off immediately and we ended up going to the bath together, really expensive ones. Now, I should preface this story by saying that because of you, Alan, I have started accessorizing in recent months. And I never wore necklaces and I never wore rings. However, I now sport a lovely little silver ring and also a little chain that I actually have been carrying with me for the last 10 years, believe it or not, but I've only just started wearing it a couple of months ago. Now, the chain is...
I think you look lovely in the chain, Adam, but I have to say it's surprising you say you're accessorizing is because of me, because famously, one of your friends said that she found me unattractive because I wear too much jewelry. So it seems like, given the information you had, it seems like an odd choice that you decided to follow in my footsteps and start wearing chains and watches and things.
No, but you've told me that you think I'd be good with a few accessories, and I'm also not in the market of trying to impress her. So
yeah, me neither.
Class. But okay, so moving swiftly on, I should preface the next bit by saying that I was in one bar, it's called Dander, that I've mentioned, very, very local and small. If you don't go there, don't kick yourself, but if you're trying to tick a load off, might as well. However, I noticed about an hour in that the colour of my silver ring and the colour of my silver chain had changed. They'd gone from silver to kind of an oxidized, weird, bronzy, almost like a pearlescent type thing. And because of the light, I thought, well, maybe it's just the sort of warm yellow light outside. And it was dark, actually, at that point. Maybe my eyes hadn't adjusted. And then when I ended up leaving, because I was there until close, I got into the light that was in the foyer, if you like, the reception. And I'd noticed that, in actual fact, they had completely changed colour.
Oh, dear.
Now, that's just something to be aware of. If you do have silver jewellery, maybe remove it. But mine seems to have just naturally gone back to the way it was. You can also use toothpaste and baking soda, I think. But yeah, I mean, there's
my chain's actually destroyed. I'm not wearing my chain at the moment because the sea has done the same thing to it. It went completely brown.
Oh no, it's real silver though, isn't it?
Supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh dear. Okay, well, my chain was bought for me by one grandmother who unfortunately passed away at the end of last year. And then my other grandmother, my nanny, my dear nanny, she bought me the St. Christopher pendant that I wear on the chain. So I like to feel like I have both of them with me when I'm travelling, and they sort of keep me safe, if you like.
Beautiful, sentimental. St. Christopher, of course, the patron saint of travellers.
There you go. And I do, for some reason, even though I don't really believe in fate or destiny or anything like that, I do sometimes feel like they sort of keep me safe. I've never had any problems, and I've also never lost anything. But I was quite upset that they'd changed colour. So didn't do anything immediately to try and rectify that. But then when I went to these baths that I'm now about to tell you about, the big ones, Széchenyi, forgive the pronunciation, I thought there's no way I'm going to take these, keep these on. I'll take them off, I'll put them in my bag, and then they won't change colour or get even worse. And then, obviously I'll just put them on when I get out. So did that. Ross and I had an amazing time. It was so funny, mate. You know exactly what to expect, but you've got these big outdoor baths, and we spent, I think, 3.5, 4 hours in there. We were getting our money's worth. There is, if you're interested, guys, there is one sauna called the Phoenix sauna, and there's a little cold pool in there as well, and that's where you can get naked. But all they require is a towel. But then the whole facility, apart from that, of course, you have to be wearing like swimming shorts or a bathing suit of some kind. And there was one, this isn't Korea anymore.
Yeah.
But Ross and I were in one of the outdoor pools, and all of a sudden we heard a lot of commotion, and there was a lifeguard who was whistling really loudly, shouting and pointing towards the middle of the pool.
He was going like, "Fwip fwoo, take the towel off, Ross."
You've got to imagine, right, that the pool was pretty full. I mean, with hundreds and hundreds of people, other people walking around, and we're kind of like looking to see what's going on. And then another lifeguard comes around the other side of the pool and starts pointing to this one guy in the middle. The other lifeguard is still whistling her head off. And we're thinking, what on earth is going on here? And then as we sort of time goes on, we realise that they're talking to one man in the middle of the pool who's got a red hat on and a yellow T-shirt.
Oh, no.
And we thought, obviously, they're obviously talking to him. For some strange reason, you're not allowed to wear T-shirts in the pool, which we didn't really question. But because they were getting so irate and they continued to whistle and sort of gesture, get out the pool, waving their arms in the air, he kind of got the idea, put his hands in the air and started walking towards the edge of the pool. And as he got out, it was revealed that he was wearing a T-shirt, but he was completely naked otherwise.
I like the methodology. He was like, "I'm actually obeying too many rules, if anything." No, you said I have to wear 2 garments of clothing. That's it.
And you can imagine the roar from the crowd when we saw his bum cheeks, and he's walking up the steps really slowly. But he didn't even turn around and look for he wasn't like waving to the crowd or anything in appreciation. He just sort of walked out, and one of his friends sprinted over from the other side of the complex and put a towel around him and whisked him away.
It's a good friend.
But it was so funny. I mean, it was a real moment of community from the rest of us, showing support for him for getting naked in the pool. And then, the sort of day went on. It ended up getting incredibly busy, actually, because we went there quite early. And then we got out the pool, got all our stuff ready, and then darted back to the hostel. At which point, I tried to put my chain and ring on.
Successfully, I imagine, because they're quite easy to put on, a chain and a ring.
They are, but that's assuming that you've still got them in your possession. And I unfortunately realised that evening that I had in fact lost them. So I was
shit.
It was, and that hit me so hard, mate. It hit me so hard, actually, that it completely removed all enjoyment from my time in Budapest from there on. And I remember sending you a message, and it was such a quick change in my mood that I wasn't even sure that I wanted to keep travelling anymore. Not then, anyway, because
Oh.
I felt like I'd let my grandparents down, and that something bad was going to happen to me as a result of me losing what I thought was sort of keeping me safe. Have you ever been through anything like that?
I often, well, I mean, you know that I lost my dearest Pashanka, and I sort of have all my sentimental things are sort of travel things, right? Pashanka, of course, being the long scarf that I travel and constantly reincarnate by buying new scarves. And then my bag, Lucky, is really sentimental. I do think if I lost my bag, it would have a similar effect on me. Yeah. So I'm not, I'm not above being that sentimental at all.
Yeah, I mean, everyone at the hostel was so supportive. You know, they turned the hostel upside down. People were looking in their bags. They kept on sort of asking me on a daily basis whether I'd found them. And, you know, don't worry, maybe it'll turn up in a jacket pocket or something. You know how this universe transpires. Bless the owner of the hostel, Olga. She even emailed and called the bathhouse to see whether I'd left it there and if anyone had picked it up and handed it in. And I was so appreciative of people's concern, I guess, but, you know, equally so angry with myself that I'd let it happen. It was just a sort of slip in my focus, I guess. Tried to get through the next few days, feeling pretty grim. I obviously was traveling a lot, so didn't really have much, I had quite a lot to distract me, and I was just trying not to think about it. But I was coming round to the idea that I'd lost them forever.
You're a man that's prone to beating himself up as well, I think. I think you're someone that gets pretty low if you think you've fucked up.
Yeah, especially when it's something like that, because now, unfortunately, both my grandmothers, my grandmother and my nan, have passed away, and it's really the way that I stay connected to them. You know, my grandma, bless her, the one that bought me the chain, she said to me many times when I went away travelling, no matter how far away you go, remember that when you look up at the moon, it's the same moon I'm looking at. So we're never that far away.
So lovely.
And I always love that. I always love that message. I've told quite a few people that over the years. But I was really down in the dumps and trying to cheer myself up. And I thought, you know, for some weird reason, I was checking my coat and my bag again and again and again, as if anything was going to change. I even remember putting the chain and the ring together, right? I put the chain, sort of opened the chain up and put the ring on it like another pendant, and then closed it up and put them both in my bag. But, you know, who knows? Maybe it just dropped out when I was getting my stuff out, because I was kind of like rushed out the changing room. And then cut to like 10 days later, I was going through through border control between Serbia and Macedonia. And I'd just been on what is probably the worst bus journey of my entire life, because of the people that were on the bus, not because of the distance or the journey itself or the bus company. But yeah, really not nice people on the bus. I mean, middle-aged racist men that just were controlling.
Oi, what's their age got to do with it?
Well,
if they'd been young controlling racists, that'd have been worse, if anything.
Well, I still would have mentioned their age.
All on their iPads.
I'm allowed to say middle-aged now because I am one. But yeah, it was just a horrible atmosphere, and they were like hogging sections of the bus. And one man in particular, when I got on the bus, I went to sit next to him, and he covered the seat and then gestured to get to the back of the bus. And, you know, I mean, all the seats were full. I didn't have any other option, but I just didn't want to sit anywhere near this guy. His energy was awful. And then throughout the entire night, you know, they were getting off the bus, smoking a couple of cigarettes, coming back on, stinking of fags, and being really sort of loud and boisterous and drinking on the bus. And it was a night bus where I was hoping to get a few hours sleep, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I arrived at the border. Of course, you know, there's kind of a no man's land section where you exit one country and then you've got to, you know, walk off the bus, show your passport a couple of times, get back on the other side. And I was getting scrutinized. I mean, I was getting questioned very heavily at about 7 o'clock in the morning at the border by the Macedonian border agents. And bearing in mind, I'm super tired. I've had absolutely no sleep. I'm like stewing because of how horrible the atmosphere is on the bus. And these guys are now peppering me with questions about what I'm doing in Macedonia, why I'm here if I don't have any friends here or a girlfriend, whether I've got a job, all these other questions. And they was flicking through my passport, passing it around about 4 different members of staff. And because they were taking so long, I just started playing with my jacket. And
as one is to do when people are taking a long time.
well, I mean, I was also like quite sheepish and looking at the floor because I was like worried that they were going to ask me something that I didn't know the answer to.
It was a sheepish playing. You weren't doing it in defiance. You were like, oh, well, if you're going to take so long, I'm going to play with my jacket. I hope you're happy. Come on, jacket.
I was so nervous. I was thinking to myself, what do normal people do? How does one behave normally? I think normal people just behave with their jacket. Also play with their jacket. So
Come on, behave, jacket.
Well, it didn't behave, I'll tell you.
Slapping the security agent. You idiot. Sorry, that was my jacket.
There I was just fiddling with the end of my jacket, and I felt something that felt a little bit hard, like it shouldn't be there.
Oh, jacket.
What have I told you?
I never knew you felt that way about me. I've been thinking about you in this way for a long time, but I never knew it was reciprocated, jacket.
You know how I feel about a man in uniform. And I felt something that was like a coin or something at the bottom of my jacket. So I looked down, and lo and behold, mate, lo and fucking behold, there it was in the lining of my jacket. My ring and my chain had fallen through a pocket. There was a tear in my coat, and it had fallen all the way through the inside of the jacket, and then basically ended up right in the very corner, completely hidden away. And do you know what the saddest thing about this was, mate? I didn't even crack a smile.
Oh, because you knew the jacket had stolen them. It was a betrayal from Jacket. Jacket, what is in your pocket, you absolute pig? You'd have been worried sick.
No, I think I just took it in my stride because the whole time I was telling people at the hostel, like I'd said, they're very concerned. I was saying, but I never lose anything. I never lose any. No, I can't get this across. I can't get this across to you guys. I was trying to say to them, I've been travelling for so long and obviously been in so many situations, but still always keep my possessions with me. Doesn't matter how drunk I get, doesn't matter how sort of disorganised things are.
Doesn't matter how treacherous my apparel is.
I never lose anything. And they were like, well, there's a first time for everything. It's shit happens kind of stuff. And then when I found it in my jacket, I sort of had this thought to myself, yeah, well, obviously you never fucking lose anything.
Yeah. You use it as an opportunity for a little bit of self-flagellation.
Yeah, but and then of course the day turned and the guards let me through with a little smile. And it just has been getting better and better ever since. But I think the takeaway from that story is just how quickly your psychology can change. And it doesn't matter if you're traveling, who you're with, what location you're in, even like your mood and your energy levels. Something that was so important to me vanished into thin air and I crumbled.
So what's the lesson, though? What steps are you going to take to prevent that from happening in the future? Because I think that, I think you're right to be so sentimental because it's a very beautiful thing from your grandparents. But then also, sometimes with travel, like there's no place for sentimentalism, is there? Unfortunately, because we live such transitory lives that move around so much.
Yeah. I was talking to the hostel, the other people in the hostel staff about this, and one young girl, Jess, from South Australia. She's an amazing person. I hope you stay in touch.
She must be, because she's got a shout out on the pod already.
No, she's awesome. She did say one really interesting question that she's been asking people is, what is something you've lost while traveling that you would like to have back?
My mind!
And it's quite an interesting question, isn't it? You are right. You can't be too sentimental when you're traveling because we do end up sort of losing things, and it is probably a better way to travel to only take things that you don't mind losing because it happens. Not if you're me, but how am I going to tackle it in the future? I suppose just the stuff that really means a lot or is of serious importance, i.e. your wallet with all your money in it and your IDs, your passport, your phone, and things like jewellery, if they do hold sentimental value, just with those things, just show them a bit of extra care. where if you're going to put it away somewhere, actually think about what you're doing. Stop what you're doing and concentrate and just think about where it is you've put them and how you're going to get them back.
It's good advice, Adam, because, if you just actively make a deal of it in your head, okay, I'm placing the chain in my pocket, you're never going to forget where the chain was. And that's pertinent now because there's a section called the Lost and Found section. We stick it at the back of an episode. It's where we lose that half of the show every week, and you have to pay a little bit of money on the old Patreon to find it again. Comes out 24 hours early. We're going to head there now, patreon.com/Tropology Podcast. You can write us a message, tropologypodcast.com, hostel common room form, and we're on Instagram at Tropology Podcast. But for now, we're going to blast off, and we'll see you all next week.
I'll see you there.
Bye.